and welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
And I'm Chip.
And we have an interesting post-budget meeting show for you. We had invited City Councilor Dan Rigo to appear as one of our first guests on the show. Currently, as we start taping, he's still not here, but if he comes in late, we'll be more than happy to put him on the show. Let's address what happened last night. There was rumor that the City Council budget would be passed last night because the Finance Committee meeting had been canceled. And Council President, according to his usual of not following the rules of Cushing and City Ordinance, failed to remove himself at any time last night from the chair to make his comments. All his comments were made from the chair, which is a violation of City Ordinance and a violation of Cushing's Rules of Order. And some people think that's a small thing, but for this City Council, it's a regular and recurring practice. I asked City Councilors Mitchell, Mayoza, and Rigo if they had changed their votes. Dan Rigo said he hadn't changed his vote, and he had no intention of changing his vote. Councilor Mayoza said, as of this point in time, I have no idea what I'm going to vote, and Councilor Mitchell was the same way. Prior to this vote was being taken, which we had guessed it would be a 7-1 vote, which it was, with Councilor Rigo not changing his vote and standing up for his principles and what he believed in, and we applaud him for that. Now, there were 10 citizens who were trying to get ready to file a lawsuit had the city passed this budget last night. And the budget was passed, but with some changes. The strange changes were that the mayor met the shortfall in the school department budget, which would have had a deficit. And so there was no deficit budget placed. Therefore, the 10 citizens were bootstrapped. They were not able to file a lawsuit for filing an illegal budget. So maybe we applaud the city for that, maybe we don't. We have to applaud them because we're not going into a 112 budget. The interesting part, and Chip's going to love this, because we always try to figure out how they did this. They took away from the following departments money. They took $150,000 away from the police department overtime, $120,000 away from employee benefits, $30,000 from the law department, and their expenses, another $60,000 in legal appeals, $10,000 away from the assessor's salary, $4,500 away from the treasurer and a tax total custodian, $5,000 away from the treasurer's expenses, $5,000 away from the auditor's expenses. Could that be his gas budget? I don't know. $2,000 away from the auditor's salary, $5,000 incentive pay for streets and highways, which is payable to Ken Pacheco, $1,000 away from the city administrator travel, $2,000 away from human resources salaries, $2,000 away from city clerk salaries. And then, giving to the school district, they gave them $500,000. They deducted $250,000 from the school transport, and they used $146,500 out of stabilization money. Reductions, $396,500. Increase on the school department for $396,500, giving a total proposed appropriate order initially was $238,385,264, with a reduction of $396,500, gives you a revised appropriation order of $237,988,764. This met net school spending, according to the budgets presented, by 100.04%. So they basically stopped the lawsuit from going forward. Good or bad, that's a decision you make. But they know they still have a shortfall to be certified in October of $2.8 to $6 million. What do you think, Chip? Fuzzy math?
Well,
Flanny math?
Flanny math, voodoo economics, voodoo math. I think the total, what were the total cuts? Around $300,000?
$396,500.
We could only figure out $300,000 worth of cuts. to come out of this increases that the law department's had, all the new positions we've established. We could only find well, even if it's, let's go up higher and say almost 400,000. 400, not even $500,000. That's absurd. Come on. I mean, Perry Long's salary went from 40,000 to 75. It's almost doubled in about the 3 years he's been employed. We've got a attorney that's making 81,000, and she's 2 or 3 years out of law school, and assistant DAs are making 31,000. We've got assistants that didn't exist before, and pay raises for people with no experience at an entry level. It's just ridiculous. So number one, the city again has proven why we can't allow the people who are running it to continue to run it, because they don't understand the fundamental thing about a budget is you can't spend money you don't have. And this budget, the projections are ridiculous. He's going to have to come up with $6 million in October. I don't know how that $6 million is, because right off the bat with the health care, and I'm reading from a report that a professional and considered one of the best in the state who evaluated the health care, it's about the incurred but not reported. It says basically that the incurred but not reported is the bigger issue. As mentioned, Blue Cross Blue Shield expects the incurred but not reported to be $8 million. This number makes sense based on the claims level. The way the city is calculating liability is not typical. What a surprise. We figured out our own way to do our math, even though everybody in the state does it differently. Thus, we have less in reserve than they would need, and they would have to pay the incurred but not reported and the insured premium rate if we went to a premium, but they don't have enough in reserve. There's the big line. They don't have enough in reserve. They've also underestimated the costs, which means they're not going to make as much. So we've got the pay as you throw with their over-projecting how much they're going to make. We've got the health care, which they're over-projecting how much they're going to make. And in October, guess what? We're going to have another deficit. And next year when we run this budget, we're going to have the same problem that we had last year, because the budget last year was full of holes. This one is even worse. And to have people flip and pass this budget 7-1 at a higher, I mean, I'm sure Linda Pereira probably would have voted against this budget. It would have been the same. But I don't know how Joe Camara could vote for this budget. He didn't vote for last year's budget. This year's budget's even worse. I mean, I don't know why people at that council meeting, we had city councils say, we have to vote for this budget so we don't destroy the city. Guess what? You guys have already succeeded in doing that. This city is destroyed. Look around. Do I have to tell Pat Casey that this city is in the toilet? Look around. People taxes are going up, fees are going up, people are abandoning ship. We have virtually no workforce. We can go over those numbers later. It's incredible. They can't figure out that this city is in trouble.
Well, the thing is that, a lot of comments were made last night by different people. And true or false, right or wrong, are irrelevant. But I mean, Councilor Rigo went on the radio yesterday and said that he would support this budget if the mayor resigned. He asked for the mayor's resignation. That's got cojones. I mean, he has a set on him, obviously, that are pretty big. And then Pat Casey calls him out in the city council chamber on a 4 or 5 minute diatribe of how the budget's fine if the mayor resigns, but he was elected by the people, he represents the people. That's a wonderful thing, okay? I don't have a problem with that. Every council is entitled to their opinion. When I was elected by default, or whatever means, was given the dubious duty to announce that the taxpayers were together and they were going to file a lawsuit if the budget was passed with a deficit. Councilor Pelletier made a comment and said very clearly that you and your friends want to destroy the city, go right ahead. And the thing that they weren't getting, and I don't know what the problem is, because even after the meeting, the only person who spoke to me saying what you did was good, now that I understand what you were trying to do, was Councilor Pelletier. Councilor Casey refused to talk to me. She was right in front of Superintendent Meg Mayor Brown, and she was screaming at me that I set her up before, and she's not going to get caught in it again, and if you want to destroy the city, go right ahead. Again, somebody who only sees what they want. Comments were made on Facebook all last night about the passing of this budget, that the city's now totally destroyed, and they couldn't believe what happened. Somebody made the comment that politics is politics, personal is personal, which I have said on this show I don't know how many times. Just because I don't like your politics doesn't mean I don't like you. So when you personalize it, you make it worse. I was verbally accosted that a gentleman in the city council chamber before the meeting yesterday had to step in and say, if you two want to fight, take it outside. I was told, don't you ever mention my family name again. This is from a neighborhood association leader's spouse. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm going to report what I see. We're not going to shut up because you don't like what we have to say. But is that what it's coming down to in city politics now? In news reporting? That we are going to attack and vilify people for reporting what's actually happening? For attacking an opinion? You know, there's a statement that I can't really say on the show because I want to maintain some dignity, but opinions are like buttholes. Everyone's got them and they all stink. You know, and this is ridiculous.
Well, you know, that's the oldest political ploy in the world. What you do is you vilify people who have a differing opinion. You attempt to paint them as being obstructionists, as being detrimental to the city moving forward. Well, I don't know about you, but I've lived in Fall River with the exception of my time in the military when I was away. I lived in Fall River my whole life, and I look around at this city, and I see a city that's just failing in everything, and I see a government that just doesn't get it. For a city council to say that to try to spend money judiciously, to try to prioritize how we spend our tax dollars, rather than just do the old adage, tax and spend, and make no attempt at tightening the budget, and then accusing the people who want to try to maximize the ability of this city to deliver services to the people of this city, and still try to maintain livable taxes and fees so maybe we can attract people back into this city, tells me something very simple. They don't belong in those seats. And when the election comes up, it's really incumbent on the people of Fall River to clean house, because obviously they don't get it. It is not the taxpayer, the beleaguered taxpayer, that's destroying Fall River. I know a 95-year-old woman who is living on $849 a month from Social Security. That's what she gets. Fortunately, the little tiny cottage she lives in has been fully paid for many years. However, her two daughters have to help her with some money. This woman is living on, look, not $849 a week, not $81,000 a year. This woman is making under about $10,000 a year. And that's what she's living on. And she has to pay her water bill, her tax bill, her meter fee, and everything else. And we have these people sitting in the city council saying that people who want to try to control this incredible spending that this mayor has really done since he got in office. Everybody forgot that this mayor gave pay raises to virtually all the unions during an election year so he could get their votes. He's hired all kinds of cronies. the number of people working for the city and appointees have doubled. This looks like an inverted pyramid. We have the least amount of people in the fire department, in DPW, and we have more people lurking the halls of City Hall with patronage jobs than ever. But it's the people who are trying to rein this runaway train in that are destroying the city. Well, you know, I don't know about Pat Casey's diatribe, but the fact is, she is one of the major problems. She has never voted against any mayoral initiative for any mayor while she's been a city councilor. And while I don't have anything against her personally, she is without a doubt, and I have been involved in politics in this city for over 30 years, well over 30 years. I took over the Firefighters Union in 1981. I began tracking budgets and doing things, and I've been doing it ever since. And I can say without reservation, she is the poorest excuse for a representative of the people I have ever seen.
Well, you know, the thing is, you and I both know that the way you get elected in Fall River is to give them a good chow mein sandwich and you're all set. And that's the problem. But, you know, when we really start looking at this budget that has now been approved, the budget is already a failure on its face. Through good resources, I found out that the International Association of Firefighters, as well as our local firefighters union, had independent auditors, independent budget people look at these budgets. The first resource that looked at it had just done one in Haverhill, another city in Fall River, and he said, I thought I saw the worst budget before in my life in Haverhill. I never thought I was going to see anything worse until I looked at the Fall River budget. And his opinion was that Fall River can't even afford to buy a gallon of milk. And the International Association of Firefighters felt that they had to do the same audit with a different person or company because they wanted to verify what was found. And again, it was verified. Do you blame Jason Burns for the firefighters that were laid off? No, I blame the mayor. I blame the city administrator. I blame the city council. Why? Because none of them took the necessary steps to plan for the loss of the SAFER grant. Because we never do that in Fall River. We don't plan. We never act proactively. We react. And now we're looking at the police department is losing $150,000 in overtime money. Oh, well, I guess if we need extra police officers on the road, we're out of luck. You know, and this is what happens. And Kathy Ann Viveris lied last night. Flat out and blatantly lied. She said to the city council that the insurance issues with Blue Cross Blue Shield had been solved and they're all set. Now, I have on very good source, I wonder who that might be, that the matter has been solved. As a matter of fact, they're going to be meeting today to discuss whether to approve or deny this Blue Cross Blue Shield issue. So if that's going to happen and it's not done, how can they say this budget is fine? You know, many people have said it. This is going to be the budget that sinks or swims the mayor. He's either going to make it work somehow and pull it out of his butt, and he's going to come off as the hero of Fall River, or he's going to fail miserably, and we'll be looking at receivers and everything else under the sun. Which do you want? I don't know. My biggest problem with all of this is that this budget, knowing that it's a failure on its face, the 7 people are touting that they saved the city from catastrophe. And I don't for a moment believe that. When people are already saying, I'm leaving Fall River, you've got a problem. And then a comment that was made, which was overlooked by the infamous 7, and probably 90% of the people of Fall River, was the fact that the mayor said that the only way pay-as-you-throw works. Now listen to this, and if you want to go back, I'll go back. We'll go back at some point and bring you the video. I'll put it right here on the show where he said the only way that pay-as-you-throw works is to assess a fee on the property owners. Brockton currently assesses a fee of about $75. So not only are we going to get pay-as-you-throw, but the way to make that work is to attach another $75 to every building in the city of Fall River. Because without it, it doesn't work. So you wonder why people privatize? I saw more people on Facebook asking me and asking other people, how do I privatize? How do I privatize? And I received a comment from a woman on Facebook through our tip lines that, has anyone ever looked at the fact that a company that the city administrator was involved in, as its administrator, failed, that they had to close their doors? And I don't think that's appropriate. Do we have the actual facts on that? No, but I'm going to get them. So that's a rumor. It is a rumor. But I'm going to get them, and I'm going to find out the company, and I'm going to find out why they went belly up. And if it's for the same thing of poor budgeting, then we're in the same bit. But last night, everyone was getting congratulations to Kathy and to the mayor. You got your budget done. Hooray, hooray. But you know what? I don't think the budget's done. I think the smoke and mirrors patrol was on and running rampant. And I think the people of Fall River are the ones that are going to suffer for it in the long run.
Well, the reality is that we're the little Dutch boy sticking our finger in the dikes again. This budget is I guess everybody's forgotten last year. I guess we should probably have a program where we have the tapes of Sean Kadim saying that city side was sustainable, and now we can get Kathy Ann Viveris and everybody applauding the fact that we've managed to we've plugged in money with all these anticipated funds that we get from fees like assessing every property owner $75. And it's all predicated on gouging more and more money out of a population that is one of the most, economically depressed in the state, second only behind Lawrence, where Lawrence is our Mississippi. There was once an old joke that a guy from Alabama told some guy, "You're my Mississippi." He said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "Because Alabama is so horrible but Mississippi's the only state that makes us look good." So guess what? Lawrence is our Mississippi. It's the only city that has higher unemployment, more people living below the poverty line that's close to our size in this Commonwealth. But that doesn't change the facts. We've got a budget, just as we had a budget that was paying for firefighters out of SAFER grants and we didn't plan. We had a landfill that everybody knew was closing. But what do? Nothing. Nothing about the SAFER grant. Nothing about the landfill. Nothing about anything. And when the time comes to pay the band, we run in circles, scream and shout,
"The sky is falling."
The sky is falling, and the answer is always the same. With no preparation, we don't need to prepare. We'll blame it on the taxpayers. You're not paying enough. You've got to have the highest tax rate in the city to live in this garden spot. You've got to pay more than everybody else. Kenny Fiola and his $400,000 a year family income will tell you that you're paying too much. You're not paying enough. These people that drive to the city council meetings in their Mercedes, they'll tell you you're not paying enough. But the fact is, this city has 23% living below the poverty level. And after these bunch of clowns get through, we might have 50% below the poverty level. And I can tell you one thing, virtually anybody who can get out will get out. So if anybody's destroying the city, city councilors, look in the mirror. All 7 of you can now be branded the malevolent 7, not the magnificent 7.
That's true. And, the thing that really bothers me a lot is that when we speak out against them, we're the naysayers, as we've talked about before. I'm an enemy of the state. And now what's the next thing that, as you call him, the Messiah is looking at doing? He wants a CSO rebate removal on the airport, the industrial park in the airport, because No stormwater goes into the Taunton River. It doesn't go into the sewers. It goes into a culvert created at the industrial park where all the water goes, so they shouldn't have to pay that fee. Well, if we do that, guess what? Our water department can't be budgeted properly. So
what happens then?
well, we put it back on the
So
residents.
so is the taxpayer who has property, who has that doesn't have any runoff into the CSO, do they get a rebate? No. Because Mr. Mellion's primary duty, even though he doesn't pay a dime of taxes in this city, is to make it as easy as possible for businesses to pay nothing. But he still hasn't figured out, we've failed because we still have the fewest businesses, the only city with less businesses in Lawrence again. You know, these people still haven't figured out that we can't attract business regardless of how low you make their taxes, how many CSO fees you waive, when people don't have any money to buy anything. And you continue to take the same people that you want to support businesses and shift the burden onto them until you break their backs. That's why the Chamber of Commerce in Fall River is as big a failure as the city council.
I can't argue with you there. And the death knell sounded last night when that last vote came in from Councilor Ray Mitchell of yes. Okay? The final vote obviously came from Council President Joe Camara, but from Ray Mitchell, I believe it was a death knell for the city of Fall River. And it is going to happen. It is. There's no question about it.
Well, I think the new credo for our city council and our mayor should be, this is the era of always put off till tomorrow what you should be dealing with today.
I agree. And, Dan Robillard, one of the unholy trinity, was totally against the budget for valid reasons, and he made them perfectly clear. But when you feel that you can't talk to your mayor or talk to your city administrators or your department heads or your city councilors, you have to wonder why. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry it's a somber show. We'll see you next time here on Spindle City Straight Talk.